James MENNIE, brought to you by Gilbert & Daughter. Right now, get an extra 30% off all spring and summer merchandise. Gilbert & Daughter, 49 Donegani in Pointe Claire.
What the city is talking about. This is Montreal Now on News Talk Radio, CJAD 800.
That is James MENNIE. He is over at the Montreal Gazette. So, Jim, just to update you and our listeners, we have a reporter down at the courthouse, a CTV reporter, and I'm told there is nothing to report as of this time. This, of course, with respect to the McGill injunction that it's seeking to take that encampment. So I'm guessing then again, I shouldn't say this. I don't know that to be the case. You'd think this would happen today, or do you have any idea?
Oh, no. It's going to be a slog. It's going to be a slog. And what is happening, what is emerging from this first day of hearings is that Mr. Justice Marc Saint-Pierre wants to be convinced that there is some threat to security, if there is some threat to safety by this encampment being there. And right now, from what we're seeing from our reporting in the courthouse, the lawyers for McGill have got their hands full. They are trying to make the case that this could represent a potential threat, and the judge simply keeps asking, can you be more specific? The other problem here as well is a lot of people have stood up and said they want to be listed as interested parties in this case, including an association of lawyers, I think law teachers at McGill who are on strike at the moment, who say that the protesters' rights are being violated. This is not going to be a rubber stamp. This is not going to be a bombshell or a lightning bolt, Aaron, and it's certainly not going to be what happened in Edmonton on Saturday, or in Calgary on Thursday, when the cops moved in and dismantled these camps within a matter of hours of their being set up. This is not going to suddenly be okay. You got to get out of here. They're going to have to really convince this judge that there is a real threat, because this judge certainly seems, how can I put it? He's not that ready to sort of negate their right to protest just based on theoreticals. I think he's going to want some hard evidence, and thus far, I'm not saying this is far from over, Aaron, but right now I'm saying he has yet to hear some. So yeah, this is not. Do not think we're going to be talking about this camp being broken up anytime soon. Okay, I'm seeing now. Just a note here, Dean Semi saying arguments are actually being heard now. Supported supposedly going to end by 4:30, so we'll see what happens at that point. Jim, I'm sorry, I know we talked about this earlier on, but it's that story again. I think a lot of people, I'm one of them, shaking their heads going, if this had happened to you and these people had set up on your lawn, right, had been asked to leave and decided to stay, and we would have asked for an injunction, it would have been granted in one day. Why is this any different? Because I think of McGill's very nature. I mean, people say it's private property. Well, if you take a look at McGill's budget, they get tens of millions of dollars from the federal and provincial governments. So it's private, but let's put little air quotes around private. It is a public place. I don't know about you, but there are times I have used McGill as a shortcut from various places in downtown Montreal. I don't have to check in. There is security guards. There are security guards there, but they're to maintain the peace and maintain the safety of the people there. I think it's a bit tough to sort of cite the homeowner man's home is his castle argument with an institution like McGill, which has also been the site of many other demonstrations. But this is the essence of McGill's lawyers' arguments. These are not demonstrators. They're not protesters. They are occupiers. And that's where the difference comes. This seems to be the crux of their argument. And you can't help but on the one hand, certainly McGill is looking at a clock. One of their arguments as well is going to cost them about $700,000 to move the graduation ceremonies off of the campus and into some other venue. But please don't think this is Superior Court. It ain't a game show. There's not a big clock ticking. Nobody's got a deadline. The cops are there as well. Now, I find that very significant that their lawyers present. I think they're just observing for the time being, but I think they want to make sure if they have to pipe up, they will. But there's no Superior Court justice who's going to be prodded, or someone's going to look at their watch and tap on it and expect to get a decision anytime soon. This is going to be, especially given that this judgment could have effect on other occupations. All the I's are going to be dotted, all the T's are going to be crossed, And I, for one, am not expecting a speedy resolution to this anytime soon.
Is there any precedent for this? Can you remember a time? You're right. There have been protests. I mean, I remember McGill back in the 60s or into the 70s. We had smaller protests. Do you ever remember something like this at McGill?
Not really. Not at McGill. I mean, my God, back in the day, and you and I were both little guys back then, the infamous Sir George Williams riots where they were throwing computers
at the windows,
at the windows. But apart from that, I don't recall anything lasting this long. We had the occupation by a bunch of, and I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago. My God, this is 2014. It was in Victoria Square. It was the Occupy movement, started to Occupy Wall Street.
Yeah.
And that lasted for 6 weeks before the city was kind of, nudged into having the cops come in and pull it apart. And even then, Aaron, the city, I think at that point, was more motivated by the fact that a lot of homeless people were showing up and staying there. It was difficult to tell who was whom. And maybe that'll happen here as well. I don't know. But what I can tell you is certainly for a university campus, I can't recall anything similar going on, certainly as an occupation. But once again, this is now, I mean, I look at UQAM, I kind of, okay, good luck with that. It looks like they're occupying an alley. But I think that, whether it's U of T, the other universities
Calgary,
at the moment, well, not Calgary.
Calgary got broken up, right?
Yeah, Calgary's gone. Edmonton's gone. Everything else is in place. But once again, this judgment, I think, will be a very, very important piece of law to consider whether you want to move in and break this up. And the fact that the mayor is kind of saying, I'd really rather this didn't happen, suggests to me that maybe McGill is also trying to sort of, how can I put it, pace its, or at least speak with an even voice when it's calling for this injunction.
Yeah, I think a lot of us would like to see this thing end peacefully if that's, if there's any way that could happen. So we'll have to wait and see. Jim, let me move on. You're right. When it comes to teaching Quebec culture and citizenship, it seems ignorance is not a problem. Are we referring this to the Francois Legault Museum comments?
No.
This?
This is a much crazy. It's kind of crazy, actually. It's a much older story. You may recall that there was an idea a few years back to replace what was called moral and religious instruction in Quebec schools with the citizenship and culture courses, which, as far as I'm concerned, is a downright suspicious name right there for kids to be indoctrinated in schools. But the long story short, the teachers' unions are calling upon Monsieur Drainville to go slow on this because they say more than half of their membership are not qualified. They have not been able to get all the materials. In fact, a lot of the materials they require for these courses, which teaches things like not just the importance of secularism, of course, but also sexual identity. It seems to be this big hodgepodge of what could be a lot of hot button topics. They're saying we either don't have the expertise or don't have the training, and in many cases, a lot of the course material they claim won't be ready until August, which is kind of nipping it pretty close, given that, the school year starts the next year. And they're saying, give us a break. Dranville's sticking to his guns. This is going to go through, rain or shine. And I think you're going to have that clash between the unions and the education ministry. But I also have a sneaking suspicion you may hear from some parents groups as well that may not be that happy with the kind of, how can I put it, citizenship and cultural instruction their kids are receiving in school.
I don't know about you, and I know you said this before about writing policy on the back of a napkin. Again, this just seems to me like one of those situations where, okay, here's our plan, and then not having thought about how will we actually be able to affect the plan. It's like just announce it and then hope that these people who can teach it will just magically appear somehow. I don't understand this at all.
On the one hand, I'm dating myself, but on the other hand, I'm going to repeat a complaint that I've heard from Francophone and Anglophone parents for decades, which is, okay, first of all, I'm old enough to remember that when the closest we ever got getting a sex education class when I was in school was called hygiene. Okay, so there you go. And it didn't have that much more to do with washing your hands twice. But that said, the idea of actually going in and discussing these things in class, of going in and essentially looking at a lot of issues that parents might be very uncomfortable talking about, and have it go through the filter of the state. I'm not entirely sure that's a good idea anywhere, but especially in a place like Quebec, where governments like the PQ and certainly the CAT look at schools as nothing more than conveyance platforms for their view of their Quebec, of, as we say it, their tribe, their identity. I get very, very uncomfortable with this entire plan. And I think that the logistic problems that we're hearing about now are just the tip of the iceberg. You and I will be talking about this again, my friend, in the months to come.
Real quick, I'm going to launch into this again for my question. This idea that restaurateurs in Quebec asking the government to consider allowing dogs on terraces. Are you yay or nay, Jim?
Absolutely not.
Okay. We will leave it at you. I don't think we need much of an explanation beyond
that. I love dogs. I love dogs. Okay, I'm a dog guy from way back. Not in a restaurant. Very sorry. Seeing eye dog, yes. And please spare me, comfort animals there. Don't get me going about that. But no, absolutely not.
Okay.
If I want to have my lunch with a dog, I'll go to a dog walk with a sandwich or go visit a kennel.
Got it. So no, nothing there for support to peacocks.
Nothing there whatsoever, my friend.
James MENNIE at the Montreal Gazette. Thank you, Jim.
Matt.